welcome to your English news broadcast live on ERi-TV. It's exactly 10:30 p.m. on Eritrea's local Greenwich. From our headquarters at Asmara with your domestic and international news in brief, I am Zahra Badouri. But first, we'll begin with your major headlines for this broadcast. An announcement from the Ministry of Health. Commendable participations in vaccination program and vocational training to youth in Barantu and popular campaign in Sheb. And on your international, wildfire burns down most of small town in Canada after record-breaking heat. And US and NATO start to formally withdraw troops from Afghanistan, and Israel air raids target Gaza for the third time. Welcome to your domestic in brief. 23 patients have been diagnosed positive for COVID-19 in tests carried out today at quarantine centers in Ansaba, southern Red Sea regions. Out of these, 20 patients are from quarantine centers in Asmara, central region. 2 patients are from quarantine centers in Karan, Ansaba region. The last patient is from quarantine center in Asab, southern Red Sea region. On the other hand, 75 patients who have been receiving medical treatment in hospitals in the Central 50, Ansaba 13, Northern Red Sea 11, and Southern Red Sea 1 regions have recovered fully and have been discharged from these facilities. The total number of recovered patients has accordingly risen to 5,634, while the number of deaths still stands at 25. The total number of confirmed cases in the country to date has increased to 6,551. Ministry of Health, Asmara, to July 2021. The Ministry of Health branch in Ansaba region reported that as a result of the increased awareness of the public on health issues, strong participation has been witnessed in the success of the vaccination program. Mr. Samuel Tesfaluul, head of the vaccination program in the region, said that owing to the strong participation of the public, successful vaccination program has been conducted to contain the cross-border polio virus. Mr. Samuel went on to say that the vaccination program has been conducted from 23 to 27 villages across the country with the objective to control the prevalence of the polio virus that has been detected in neighboring countries, indicating that pre-independence vaccination coverage has been below 4%. Mr. Samuel said that currently it has reached to 100%. The type of vaccination have also increased from 6 to 13, and that mortality and disability rates due to the communicable diseases has decreased, significantly been reduced. Mr. Samuel also called on the public for reinforced participation in the future vaccination programs. Three months vocational training has been organized to 185 youth in Barantu town. The training included electronics, beauty salon, computer technology, and first aid. According to reports, the objective of the training was to equip the youth with skills that could be enabled them engage in the income-generating schemes and thereby become self-productive members of the society. Similar vocational trainings program has been organized to 100 disadvantaged and disabled youth in Hajar, Golij, Mulki, and Agurdat. Farmers in Dabub Manshab administrative area, Sheb subzone, are conducting popular water and soil conservation, a popular campaign with a view to reduce the environmental and boost agricultural productivity as your final domestic. The popular campaign includes renovation of terraces and water diversion schemes that have been damaged due to the flooding. The participants on their part indicating that the popular campaign is being conducted with strong participation of the farmers, expressed readiness to finish the program before the coming of the rainy season. Dabub Manshab administrative area, which is resident to 1,570 farmers, has 1,050 hectares of arable land. Up next with your international news, do stay with us for more. And on your global report, the province of British Columbia has recorded 62 new fires in the past 24 hours, Premier John Horgan told a press conference. Horgan said that he cannot stress enough how extreme the fire risk is at this time in almost every part of British Columbia. The town of Lytton, 250 kilometers northeast of Vancouver, has sustained structural damage, and 90% of the village is burned, including the center of town, local MP Brad Weiss reported. The village's 250 residents were evacuated on Wednesday evening, one day after it set a jaw-dropping Canadian record high temperature of 49.6 degrees Celsius, 121 degrees Fahrenheit. The evacuation order was extended Wednesday night to residents of about 100 priorities north of Layton. Minister Harjit Sanjan wrote on Twitter that the last 24 hours have been devastating for Layton residents, adding that the Canadian Armed Forces are ready to support residents as they move forward in the next step. Provincial authorities have not yet announced any injuries or deaths related to the fire, a number of which were also clustered north of the city of Kamloops, located some 150 kilometers northeast of Layton. Early Thursday evening, British Columbia fire authorities said that the unprecedented hot and dry conditions had led them to expect another difficult day ahead. Environment Canada said in a bulletin issue early Thursday morning for the Prince George, BC area that, in quotation, an unexpectedly strong ridge of high pressure over British Columbia will continue to bring record-breaking temperatures over the next couple of days. The U.S. and NATO have a presence in Afghanistan for almost 20 years, but the withdrawal, which runs until 11 September, comes aimed escalating violence, with Afghan security forces on high alert for reprisal attacks. The Taliban have warned they are no longer bound by any agreement to target international troops under a deal signed last year between the militant and the President Donald Trump. Foreign forces were to have left by 1 May, while the Taliban had held off attacking international troops. Officials told Reuters during this time that the Taliban had been protecting Western military bases from Islamist groups. Yet that has not stopped Taliban attacks on Afghan forces and civilians. U.S. General Scott Miller warned against attacks on foreign troops as they start to withdraw. U.S. President Joe Biden last month pushed back the 1 May pallet and pullout, saying some troops would stay on until 11 September this year, the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, citing the security situation. A Taliban spokesman said that, in a quotation, this violation in principle has opened the way for Taliban fighters to take every counteraction it deems appropriate against the occupying forces. But he also said that the Taliban fighters would await instructions for leaders before mounting attacks. Some analysts also suggested with a U.S. deadline for withdrawal in place, large-scale attacks could be averted. On your final report, Israel said its fighter jets targeted a weapon manufacturing site in the Gaza Strip overnight on Friday, in latest unrest since a ceasefire ended May's attack. Security sources with Hamas said that the raids hit training sites and no casualties were reported. The Israeli army spokesperson stated that the air raid comes in response to the launching of incendiary balloons from the Gaza Strip towards the surrounding Israeli statements and settlements. The statement said, in a quotation, in response to the arson balloons fired towards Israeli territory today and military fighter jets struck and upon manufacturing site belonging to the Hamas terror organizations. There was no immediate indication as to which Gaza-based groups was responsible for the balloon launch, but Israel holds Hamas responsible for any action. It was the third time Israel has carried out air attacks in Gaza since the end of the 11th day offensive and launch in the blockade territory in May this year. The conflict killed at least 256 Palestinians, including 66 children, according to Gaza authorities. In Israel, 13 people, including 2 children, were killed by rocket fire from Gaza, the police and army reported. Egyptian and international mediators have been trying to shore up the informal ceasefire that ended the most recent war. In related news, and in recent days, Israel has eased restrictions to allow in Qatar founded fuel extended Gaza's fishing zone and permitted increased cross-border commerce. There have been multiple flare-ups since the ceasefire, including a series of balloon launches last month. Israel has reported and responded with airstrikes. Following an exchange of fire on June 18th, Israel Army Chief ordered forces to be ready, in quotation, for a variety of scenarios, including a ransom and resumption of hostilities. The Gaza Strip has been under an Israeli-Egyptian blockade since 2007, after Hamas, which was democratically elected the year before, to control over the coastal enclaves. At least 2 million people, half of them under the age of 18, live in territories, one of the territories under attack. Dear viewers, that is all for now with your domestic and international news in brief. But before we end, these were your major headlines for this broadcast again. An announcement from the Ministry of Health. Commendable participation in vaccination programs and vocational training to youth in Baratu, as well as popular campaign in shared subzones. And on your international, wildfire burns most of a small town in Canada after record-breaking heat. U.S. and NATO start to formally withdraw troops from Afghanistan, and Israel air raid targets Gaza for the third time since May ceasefire. That is all for now. Have a nice one.